Hi, welcome to class number 5. The color today is green, which is a secondary color. First, I have a few lines of a song for you to take a listen to. I almost said take a look at. Have a listen to that reflects the color green.
It's not easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves, when I think it might be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that.
Okay, Kermit the Frog sounding really sad about it not being easy being green. Kermit, you could make green paint very easily, however. So even if you don't like being green, you could make some green paint. Take a look at your color wheel. Green is between yellow and blue. That means you mix those two, you get a secondary color of some shade of green. So don't be green, but make green. It's easy. The artist today, well, first of all, Audubon used green for these Carolina parakeets. By the way, that's an extinct species, but that was in 1825. Georgia O'Keeffe went to Florida to do some artwork for the Dole Pineapple Company, so she used shades of green to do Pineapple Bud. The title is Pineapple Bud. Today's artist, Henri Rousseau, another French name. The last guy was Henri as well. Must be popular. This is Henri Rousseau. He used many shades of green to create jungle paintings. And I don't have a photo of him, but I do have his self-portrait. That means he painted this picture of himself. He was also born in France in 1844. He never had any art lessons, but he always knew that he wanted to be an artist. Because he didn't have any art training, many of the plants, the animals, and the people he painted don't look very real. And for a while, people were really angry about this artwork. I can't imagine people getting so worked up over it, but they were angry because they didn't think it should be shown because it wasn't good enough. Henri had a great imagination, and sometimes it got out of hand. He said that when he was a young man in the French army, he fought in the jungles of Mexico. He had everybody believing that this is where he got his ideas for his jungle paintings. It never happened. He wasn't there. His ideas came from visits to museums, botanical gardens, and the zoo, as well as looking at books, I bet he went to the library, and magazines. Today's painting is a detail from a painting entitled The Dream. Take this down so we can get a better look at the black and white version of it. It's a very busy painting. There are a lot of lines and designs. I discovered that last night when I was drawing my version of the drawing. Peering through the vegetation are a couple of lions. They're kind of strangely done. I'm not sure what all this is. It's almost like he's got bangs and he's parted them, and his ears are very pointed. Real lions have round ears. There's just something very primitive about the way he painted those lions, so maybe there weren't any at the zoo at the time that he went there to take a look at the animals. I'm going to draw a very basic sketch of this to get you started because, again, there are so many lines. Let's get rid of that part of the jungle. So many lines in this picture. Artists, again, look for shape. When I look at that big leaf, I see, in this box, I see an oval shape. Start out with that shape. In this box up here on the upper right, it makes the lion's face look a little triangular because there is something growing here that's coming down, and there's another, some kind of plant growing here that's coming down this way. His face is up in here. There's a pointy ear over here. I'm still going to draw it the way that he has drawn it, even though it's not quite a lion. There's mane up in here. That's what all of this represents. Some of it is a little unclear sometimes. The eyes, very round. The nose is down in here. The mouth is here. His chinny chin chin is right there. There are whiskers. Oh, I've got this eye looking cross-eyed, don't I? Goodness, here. Let's change this a little bit. It's a little too close together, too. Let's get rid of the eyes for a minute here. They're definitely too close together. When I look at my picture, I see that the one eye is kind of directly above where the mouth ends over here, and this one is kind of directly above where the mouth ends over here. We'll just do it like that. Now he looks a little worried, I think. Plants coming down over here, lots and lots of leaves. I think these leaves are probably some of the things that people would have criticized about the way he drew them. They sort of look like cookie cutter leaves. Real leaves would have a lot of irregular edges. Real leaves wouldn't have lines quite so straight and quite so perfect, but that's the way Henri drew these. Another one over here. Lots and lots of plants growing over here, and I'm drawing these very quickly and not the way that I drew them in the finished drawing. Okay, this one needs some leaves to make it so that it's not just an oval. It has veins. Veins in leaves are curved. There are no straight lines in nature. There's another leaf over here. I've made this one a little bit big, so I will fudge a little bit and make this one a little bit smaller. There's another one of these cookie cutter leaves growing up in here. Very bumpy edges. Lots and lots of ferny things growing over in here. I'm not sure I could identify these plants. Maybe he just kind of made them up as he went. There's one more lion head right over here. You just see the snout. And there's an eye that kind of disappears right up here at the top. Boy, that went a lot faster than when I was trying to draw it last night. Lots more leaves coming up here around the face. Lots more things that are growing. Many, many more lines than I've put here, but this gives you kind of the basic shape. There are also whiskers. And when I do the whiskers on my final piece, which I have not done, I will be using the white crayon for that so that they show up through the paint. But I haven't, I'll show you my finished drawing. When you have yours finished the way that you want it, get rid of that grid. You don't need those lines anymore, so erase that. There are lots and lots of lines here. And I decided if I start outlining this with a crayon, unless I keep them really, really sharp, it's going to be difficult to do because there are such tiny edges on these leaves. So there may be other things that we can do with this. What I wanted to focus on is the shape of some of the leaves, and I've drawn them out. These are kind of Rousseau-shaped leaves, and this is what I'm going to apply some paint to and give you some ideas as to how you might want to do these. So I'm going to look back at my color copy here for a minute, put it up here where I can see it. A lot of these leaves in through here, there's yellow on the top edges, and so I'm assuming Rousseau is pointing out that the sun is hitting that way, and that's why these are light on those edges. So one way that I could do those kind of leaves is to take a yellow crayon and not outline it, but color in some of this. And I'm doing this very quickly. His lines are much more precise, but in nature, you don't really get these precise lines with this. I could even use a couple of shades of green. That's just a kind of a lime color that I have here. Because it is the tropical jungle, or it's supposed to be, and there are beautiful colors in the jungle. So let's say that I have this leaf the way that I want it. I'm going to use some very dark green, and let me show you the back of this before I go any farther. You should practice mixing some colors to get the idea of greens. This is green right out of the paint box. Then I blended yellow and blue, got that shade of green. Yellow and blue again, but I used more yellow than blue, so it's now more of a yellow-green. Then I added brown to the whole mix, and I got this kind of a brownish, like an olive green. Then green out of the paint box plus brown, green from the paint box plus black, green plus red, and that's a complement if you're ever doing shadows. Like if you're painting a red apple and you need a shadow, use green, don't use black. So red and green makes that color, and violet added to green made that color. So it's all about experimenting. So back to my leaf here. And I also wanted you to notice, I wrote up on top to remind me, there are no straight lines in nature, all very curved lines. The way that he drew his, they're all exactly alike. I think he could have observed nature a little bit more to get an idea of how that might look better. So I'm going to mix a little bit of color here in my pan. You can see that the crayon is resisting. Okay. Once that's dry, I might want to come back in with a little bit more crayon, but we see a little bit of yellow there. I'm afraid that I have used a green that's almost the same color as that crayon. I think I'll put a little bit right out of the paint box, make it a little bit darker here. Another way that I could do that is to use a clear brush, tap, 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 still have a point on my brush. I'm putting fairly clear water on here. It's got a little bit of green in it, but it's fairly clear. I'm going to have to tilt this up a little bit so that it doesn't run. Then I'm going to start out with some yellow. Then a little bit of that green. And this is where it doesn't matter if the colors bleed together. But if I'm doing it this way and I'm not outlining it with crayon, I'm going to have to let some of this dry in my actual painting, or I will have colors that might be running together too much. I'm trying to get a stronger green on that. But it's kind of fun to play around. You might want to use one of those extra sheets of watercolor paper in your folder to practice some of this. I'm going to have just a little bit of orange in here because I kind of like that idea of it looking maybe a little more natural. So that's another way to do this. Now, the leaves that he did that are at the bottom here that have these red veins, I could use, I thought I had a red crayon here, but this will work. And even the veins, when I drew them, his are stick straight almost. There are no straight lines in nature. I like to curve them so that they look a little bit more realistic. I won't get a red crayon out. This will be fine. So I have that. Oh, and he's also outlined the edges here. This is interesting. I wonder what kind of leaf he was creating. Just have to shake your hand a little bit as you're drawing. Okay, there is that. Maybe a little bit more of that green. I hope you're cleaning up your paint box each time you do this, because it leaves a mess in the lid if you don't, and all that color will start running together. That's a very bright green, isn't it? More of a grass green. But you can see the veining showing through, but I haven't actually outlined the leaf itself. Now, the other thing you could do, if you have your own colored pencils, and those of you who took these classes last year did get water-soluble colored pencils. I hope you're still using those. But they would also be good for doing some of the outlining. You know, if water gets on them, they will bleed like the paint, but you could use them dry after you had done the painting and do some of the outlining. That's my plan for this, is that I'm going to paint the lighter areas, like the yellow areas, and then I'm going to let it dry or use a hair dryer, some way to dry it enough so that then I can go back in and do the dark paint. The cat's eyes, I think I'm going to use a yellow colored pencil for that, just because, well, I still have a good tip on the brush. I might be able to get away with painting those yellow with my brush. But the light colors first, let those dry, then come back in and do the darker colors when you need to. So I hope I'm giving you some ideas with this. I know I didn't put any paint on this, but as you start working with watercolors, it's time for you to start coming up with some of your ideas, for your own ideas for these kinds of things. So until next time, keep watercoloring your world, and also come down to the library and check out some books about Rousseau, about the color green, and keep enjoying your watercolors. Bye-bye for now.